Dawson's Rambles.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Ryder here. I wanted to do a little theory discussion video on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always, sort of inspired by the recent preview clip we got that is explaining why Rocky and Kat have the Dino Coins and why they can use them when the other Rangers are, trapped, because they created these sort of proxy coins so that they could morph at the same time, and obviously explaining why Kat's using Dino powers when she used the Crane powers before. But it does raise some questions, which may or may not be answered in the special, that I just want to talk about for fun. Honestly, I don't think these questions will necessarily be answered because they don't necessarily need to, because I think the meta reason that these powers are being used is, again, because they want to do a Mighty Morphin Power Ranger special for the anniversary and use the original Dino powers for Season 1 throwback with the Zords. That's really the ultimate meta reason why we're not going to see stuff probably like the Zeo powers or the Turbo powers or stuff like that. But as a fan, it's fun to speculate and talk about, like, why aren't they using those powers? What happened to them? Will they explain it? I think it would be fun if they had a throwaway line just to explain why they're not using the powers. I mean, like, for Zach, he's only ever used the Black Ranger powers, so we don't need to worry about that. I suppose they could include a line about, like, whether he and Adam passed the coin back and forth since Adam was the last one to have the coin. Obviously, Billy was the only literal true blue, the only member of the OG5 to stick all the way through, so there's really no explanation needed, unless they do address the fact that I interpreted it when I was younger that he couldn't morph anymore at all after what happened to him when he tried to take the gold powers. But people in the comments said that it was only specifically the Gold Ranger powers, so maybe that's true. Maybe there'll be a throwaway line about that, but I'm not too concerned about that, obviously. And Min probably becoming yellow. There's no need to explain anything with her. But then you have Rocky and Kat. Rocky obviously has potentially the Zeo Ranger 3 blue powers. The Zeo powers have always been a bit of a mystery, as, the transition from Zeo to Turbo was really awkwardly handled. I guess we'll just assume that when Kat dived into that water mid-morph, going Zeo Ranger 1, it short-circuited and destroyed all the powers. No, but in all seriousness, they never really explained why they weren't using the powers, which is funny, considering all the hoops they had to jump through to explain, like the power coins being destroyed, and the power transfer, and the ninja powers, and the Zeo powers, and literally, nowadays, if Lightspeed Rescue or SPD's powers get broken, they're just like, oh, here's another one, I just printed it. But back in the day, Zordon's like, oh, you have to go on a terrifying quest. I don't know why he's like a vampire. It was like they made such a big deal about it. And even now, when they're explaining this, you gotta jump through hoops to explain why the powers are here. But then with Zeo and Turbo, it was just kind of like, don't worry about it. But obviously the Zeo powers have shown up since. They were in Legendary Battle. Tommy showed up as Zeo Ranger 5. Last time we saw Rocky, he showed up as Red Ranger, probably because they wanted it to be more iconic. Kat obviously would still have the powers as well, but she used the Turbo powers last time we saw her, which, were last in Cassie's possession before they were destroyed. There were also Turbo Rangers at the same time at Legendary Battle, which I think I headcanoned as the Robo Rangers, because they were one of the few Robot Rangers that didn't go evil. So, I don't know. I feel like it doesn't necessarily matter. I think it's just kind of a cool lore thing to maybe be curious why they're not using it. Maybe they could say something like, for some reason Rita took her powers. Maybe Rita's like, oh, she took my Zeo powers or something. I feel like they've just not addressed the Zeo powers in so long that they're probably not going to address it. I feel like it's almost would be the most normal thing for them not to address why they wouldn't use the Zeo powers for logical reasons. But I think it would be cool to maybe include a throwaway line about, maybe Rita commandeered their powers or something like that, or there's a reason that they can't get to them for whatever reason. Again, they've done it with the Zeo powers so often that it's just going to seem normal if they don't address it. But with the thing that trips me up is the pink Turbo. Why did they have her be pink Turbo? With Rocky, I can understand it. I feel like for me it would have made more sense in character for him to be Zeo 3 blue, but I feel like because they were doing the 25th anniversary at the time, they're like, okay, we want an MMPR red there. Again, on a meta level, that makes sense. But why did they make her pink Turbo? I don't remember the reasoning they gave it. Was it because of suit availability? Did they not have a Zeo Ranger 1 suit? That, I guess, could have been it. But that just seems so weird, You'd think that they would go for maybe MMPR pink because of MMPR, or again, Zeo Ranger 1. I'm not really questioning why the ninja coins aren't around, because after those were destroyed, it just seemed like they cared less about reviving them. Every time they revive the powers, it's the Dino coins. But I'm just so curious about that. I think one person once described it as you could just sort of see the different suit mantles that they have access to as kind of like, Batman or Spider-Man, where they have different suits they just take out into battle for different reasons. I think that could be another way to headcanon it, Obviously, they're jumping through hoops here to explain why she's using Kim's coin. But I could look at it that way too. At the end of the day, for me, like I said, it doesn't necessarily matter in the sense that it's not going to impact my enjoyment. I'm not going to be mad if they don't explain it. But it's definitely stuff that I'm curious about, and I would love if they had a throwaway line. Like here, they have a cool throwaway line about the shadow morphing or the proxy morphing, whatever you want to call it, which again, like I mentioned in my other video, is oddly enough, the way they describe it is very similar to something that happened in the mmpr or TMNT comic when Billy modified the Morpher so that the Turtles and the Rangers could use the powers at the same time. So they go out of their way to explain it here, so it would be cool to get a throwaway line. It's something also I feel like the comics might explain, like the comics had explained that Jason was gifted a cosmetically fixed version of his Tyrannomorpher before he left. I think that was maybe implying that's how he had it when it got revived. But again, that's the comics world. Although I don't know whether that scene was in an annual. I don't know if it was supposed to take place in the show world, because it was part of like Draken traveling through the multiverse, and then the multiverse was reset anyway. It doesn't matter. Regardless, I feel like this is stuff that the comic would more so explain and create cool stories out of, like creating an entire team of Rangers out of a peace conference, contract dispute storyline from the 90s. But anyways, guys, what do you think? Do you think that they're going to address why we are not using the Zeo or Turbo Powers, or do you think they'll just gloss over it? What would your explanation be as to why they're not using the Zeo or Turbo Powers? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.